Hey guys, I decided this morning that I was going to go through my cellar and try to find something new. Mostly, I've been smoking a lot of Kia blends lately, with the exception of I think I may have smoked a little half and half, or something like that, or in a couple of early blends over the past like 2 weeks. But mostly, I've been in like just like heavy standard English mode, and I'm getting kind of not palate fatigue, but just kind of like, wanderlust. I really want to try something different, and have a bunch of stuff that I've never opened. And I thought, what the hell, right? So I went through my cellar and flipped through all the tins that I have, and what I settled on was this Cornell and Diehl's Black Frigate. Um, Cornell and Diehl's Black Frigate is a what they would call, I think it says on their webpage, they considered a crossover or hybrid aromatic. It is a really interesting concept. The Navy blend of tobaccos goes back a long way. I mean, we're talking a long, long way. Centuries ago, casing tobacco with rum for added flavor. And I think, in a way, they did that not just for added flavor, but also as a way to sterilize and keep the tobacco moist for long journeys. They put it in big barrels, big casks, and they soaked it or treated it however they did with rum. And it sort of just became like, that's how it became the Navy style, because these casks of tobacco were going out on ships, and pipe smoking and seafaring have this really strong intrinsic link anyway. So it's a really storied aspect of the hobby. So Black Frigate is in that tradition, but it's kind of a little bit different. Most Navy blends are primarily Virginias with rum, or some kind of topping that is rum-esque. Black Frigate is a regular Navy Cavendish blend with Latakia and Turkish added. So, and this is just from the blurb on the back of the tin. Latakia and Turkish are added to Navy Cavendish, pressed and sliced. A Royal Navy blend, not for the faint of heart. So, that's me. I'm really interested in that. So, it kind of jumped out at me the first time I heard about it, and I was able to procure some through my friend Tom, via Doug Owen at the cargo hold. So I'm going to go ahead and open this tin. We didn't spill it. That's the main thing. Okay. Whoa. That's weird. So I'm not really a Navy blend smoker that much. I have had a couple, and there was something really off-putting about them. I don't know. I tried them, a lot of stuff early on when I started pipe smoking, and most Navy blends are Virginia, and for some reason, I don't know what, but I had a heck of a time with Virginia blends in the beginning. I don't know, they just burned really hot, and they were unpleasant, and I didn't like them. Man, that's a smell that I cannot really articulate. I will try. I'm a very I'm very good at describing things, not to toot my own horn or anything, but I consider myself to be very descriptive, and this is going to be a challenge, I can tell. So Black Frigate comes in a cake, or in this case, one cake with a tiny little flake at the bottom that they were like, we need to throw in a little bit more. There it is, if you can see that. And I smell the Latakia. Whoa, man, that is pungent. Not in a bad way. It's just really intense. One thing I've learned very recently in the last 10 seconds, you don't put your nose all the way in the tin with this stuff, because it's really powerful. I can smell the Latakia. And that is a dense brick of... I don't know if I'm going to be able to break that off. I might have to get a knife. Here's a little flake of it, though. Just give you guys a little close-up of that. Mottled brown and dark. You can see the Virginia. I can see what I would perceive to be as Latakia in Turkish. What do I know though, right? So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and light this up and see what it's like. Okay, so I've packed this. I was wrong. It does break apart pretty easy. So it's technically in a more of a crumble cake form. Not like a plug, but that sort of slightly looser variant. It comes, the way they do it is they blended it all together and then press it. So it's not something like Peterson's Perfect Plug where they lay the leaves and then they press it, and if you don't cut it a certain way, it tastes different. This should taste pretty consistent regardless of how you break it off. Because it is cased in rum, what I perceive as rum or a rum flavoring, and in an effort to protect my briar pipes from any ghosting, we're going to smoke this in a very rare appearance by one of my cobs, just to be on the safe side. In a bent Mark Twain that I've had forever. The smell from the rum is very strong, and it's kind of making me lightheaded. So this should be interesting. Let's give it a shot. There we go. The flavor does leave a lot of not I guess what I'm trying to say is it leaves a lot of unanswered questions. I'm not really picking up the Latakia or the Turkish. The thing about cased blends in my experience is the casing doesn't really last all the way through the bowl. So I figure what I'm going to experience is for the first little bit, it's going to be mostly that rum flavoring. And then eventually, once it gets going, it'll be more of that Latakia Turkish flavor. At least that's the way I think it probably will go. It may not go that way at all, but that's the way my brain is expecting it to go at this point. Okay, so that's interesting. So it's actually not unpleasant. The rum, or whatever the topping is, I keep saying rum because in my mind that's what it probably is, but I don't really know that for sure. But the topping is very prevalent. But also, I'm getting sort of sour. No, it's not too sour, very slight. Almost like a faint pop of sour in the background. The topping is burning away, and I'm getting a lot more tobacco flavor. It's almost like that raisiny smell that you get from some blends, like Dunhill's Dark Flake. I find it has a really figgy, raisiny smell in the tin. And this doesn't have that smell, but it kind of has a taste that's raisiny. Hmm. It's complex and a little confusing. I'm going to keep smoking this a little while, and as we progress, I'll check back in. Um, I'm about halfway through this pipe, and I can't say that I'm really detecting any of the Latakia. I will say that I think that maybe I needed to dry this a little um, before I smoked it, because it does feel to me like it's going to get hot if I puff it too intensely. Also, I'm getting this sort of peppery feeling in the back of my throat, which is I'm not 100% sure, but it's probably indicative of the topping. Um, this isn't bad. I think probably I'm going to have to experiment with it and smoke quite a bit more of it um, before I'm really comfortable with the flavor, before I'm really um, able to get out of it as much as I probably should. But it isn't bad. It's definitely a change of pace, which is what I was looking for. It came down to, when deciding what to open, it came down to either this or Orlick Dark Strong Kentucky. So I knew I was going to get something different. Regardless. But this isn't wowing me because I'm spending too much time trying to pick it apart, because it is such a different flavor for my palate, and because it is kind of a departure from what I normally smoke. If you smoke a lot of the same kind of blend, like, which for me is English blends, and let's say I smoke for like a week straight, I smoke nothing but Balkan Superior from Rich's in Portland. Um, and then, so I do that for a week, and then the very next week, the first thing I smoke is, let's say, Vintage Syrian. Those blends are different, but they're similar enough that I don't have to calibrate myself when I'm smoking it, because my palate is expecting an English blend, and that's what it's getting. So the differences are a lot easier to separate. and the similarities sort of fall away. But this is just, it's so different that it's almost like I've never smoked a pipe before. It's like, what am I tasting? What is going on here? I was talking more lighting. Yeah, it's a really interesting. I would definitely recommend it on the basis that it is interesting, and I don't really tend to think of things as good or bad as much as I like to think of things as interesting. Do you know what I mean? Like, I would rather look at an experience as being interesting than say, well, that sucked or that was terrible. So there are things that are great, and there are things that are educational, for for lack of a better uh, for lack of a better word. I learned at a very young age that people respond to you better when you say people respond to you differently when you say I hated that versus when you say that was interesting. And then if you say that was interesting and they ask why, and you're like, well, it was interesting because I didn't like it, and here's the reasons why. They kind of asked, so you're not that guy that's like, oh, this sucked, I hated it. You're like, this is interesting. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, it's interesting because it sucked, and it's also interesting because I hated it. And they're like, oh, well, I brought that on myself. This does have a very, believe it or not, I can actually smell the room note, and it's actually quite pleasant. Very boozy. Like that smell you get when you open a bottle of booze, but like if it weren't like overpowering and intense, and it were instead just sort of like light and kind of like, something smells vaguely of rum. If there was a rum scented Glade plug-in that was really low, and you know how when you buy like one of those air fresheners for your car, and the first day you put it in there, then you leave and you come back and you get in your car and like, wow, it smells like car air freshener in here. But like a month and a half later, you're like, does it smell like car air freshener in here, or is it just, what does that smell? Is it? Okay. Oh wait, I was gonna cut you loose, but I'm getting something. Okay, so I'm finally starting to detect the flavors. That's a relief. So it's a little sweet. Now that the booze is burned off, it is way, way in the background. It's kind of tangy. Kind of earthy. A little sour. Definitely smoky, but not a lot of Kia smoky. I can taste a lot of Kia. It's in there, but it's not like campfire a lot of Kia. It's like that sort of savory, earthy, a lot of Kia that you get in blends like, say, Pirate Cake, ironically. um, doesn't have it has to me. Pirate cake has a really high latakia content, but to me it doesn't have that like in your face smoky. It is more of a savory flavor, and I think that's because the other 25% is just like Turkish, I think, or not Turkish. Is that what is it? Burley? I don't know, but it doesn't hit me in the face with smoke. It's just kind of savory and mild, which that's kind of what I'm getting with this. It's like Star of the East. How Star of the East kind of has that musty, savory dirt earth flavor rather than the like I'm inhaling campfire. I knew I'd get there. I just had to talk it out. Yeah. I could see myself really liking this, and I think in the interest of getting used to it, I think I'm going to smoke this exclusively for the next couple of days. And I'm probably going to try it in different pipes. I'd like to try it in a briar. I have this Dr. Grabo, which you've seen if you've seen my pipe collection, that I really rarely ever smoke. But this might be a good candidate for that. Okay, well, we have a game plan. I'm going to keep puffing away at this, and hopefully get some more out of it. If not, I'm sure I will get something out of it the next time I smoke it. Practice makes perfect. And I'll catch you guys later.